I've always been a big fan of Whoopi Goldberg's acting in Star Trek, and in general, just big fan of Star Trek in general. But she is admittedly a pretty far lefty when it comes to a lot of issues, so I have to say I was glad to see this. For those that aren't familiar with what's going on, Eric McCormick and Deborah Messing recently said that they wanted a list of Trump supporters so they'd never work with him again. Here's a tweet, Eric McCormick. Hey, The Hollywood Reporter, kindly report on everyone attending this event so the rest of us can be clear about who we don't want to work with. And specifically, a tweet from Deborah Messing saying she wanted a list of people or something like that. Well, Whoopi Goldberg, standing on principle and understanding history, said, listen, the last time people did this, people ended up killing themselves. And she was referring to Joseph McCarthy's Hollywood Blacklist of the 1950s. Here's the story. Whoopi Goldberg goes off on Deborah Messing. You don't have the right. Bravo, Whoopi. Big fan. Appreciate it. I once saw Whoopi because I worked at ABC News and I was really excited, but I didn't want to bother her. But I love Star Trek and Guinan was a great character. Whoopi Goldberg is not impressed with actress Deborah Messing's call to out the attendees of an upcoming Trump fundraiser in Beverly Hills. Quote, please print a list of all attendees, please. Learn to write. The Will and Grace star tweeted at The Hollywood Reporter over the holiday weekend. The public has a right to know. After The View co-host Joy Behar joked during Tuesday's season premiere that instead of a blacklist, they should call it a whitelist, Goldberg turned serious. Listen, the last time people did this, people ended up killing themselves. This is not a good idea, okay? As Meghan McCain nodded in agreement. Your idea of who you don't want to work with is your personal business. Do not encourage people to print out lists because the next list that comes out, your name will be on, and then people will be coming after you. Here. We had something called the Blacklist, and a lot of really good people were accused of stuff, she continued. Nobody cared whether it was true or not. They were accused, and that's what's happening all day, every day. Can I just shout out to the story I did in my main event, my main segment, where I talked about these insane activists accusing a small-town brewery of being Nazis? It's insane. Stop. These people are nuts. And for everybody else, stand up to the lunatics, please. She says, they were accused and they lost their right to work. You don't have that right. In this country, people can vote for who they want to. That is one of the great rights of this country. As the uproar over both the Hollywood fundraiser and Messing's tweets raged, President Donald Trump himself jumped into the fray, claiming in a tweet that when both he and the actress worked at NBC, she came up to him at an event, profusely thanked me, even calling me sir, and adding, how times have changed. You don't have to like it, but we don't go after people we don't like who they voted for. Because we don't like who they voted for, Goldberg added. We don't go after them that way. We can talk about issues and stuff, but we don't print out lists. Speaking to Messing and her Will and Grace co-star Eric McCormick, who joined her in her call to print the list, Goldberg said, I'm sure you guys misspoke when you said that because it sounded like a good idea. Think about it. Read about it. Remember what the blacklist actually meant to people and don't encourage anyone to do it. I'll tell you what, man. You know what happens as we continue down this path? Because regardless of what Whoopi Goldberg says, it's going to keep happening. All right. And I want to make sure I highlight this story. I talked about it in my main segment, but this was a small town bar who was accused of being Nazis simply because they booked an event. And these people showed up. Many of them were chanting things and threatening to throw things. The police had to intervene. Do we want a world where there are businesses only for one side or the other? Well, it's happening. For the longest time, we've seen movies that are only for conservatives because the establishment is safeguarding the left. Well, the left has gone nuts. They have. I'm sorry. It's absolutely true. The media is continually, you know what it is? Here's a really good example. Rotten Tomatoes receives complaints that too many of the critics are white men. So they bring in a bunch of marginalized groups. What they really do is they bring in these far left ideologues. Then we see the overwhelming disparity between what people actually like and what the media is telling them they should like. You then get people like this, weak-willed individuals like Eric McCormick, and I really do want to stress weak-willed. He doesn't know or care about any of this. All he knows is he's going to do whatever the mob tells him to do. So he's virtue signaling. Does Eric McCormick know about politics? I'd be willing to bet he doesn't. And I mean that sincerely. Look at these people. These people who are coming out to protest in Pittman had no idea who anyone was. A small group maybe did, but they want to push that new McCarthyism of calling everyone a Nazi. And then you get people like Eric McCormick who don't know anything, who just pick up a pitchfork and giggle along like morons. I'll tell you what, dude, I hate insulting people and being mean, but this is the epitome of weak-willed. Okay? How about you go read a book? How about you read the news for yourself and stop chasing after people and mind your own business? Good on Whoopi Goldberg for calling these people out. But you want to know what was really the craziest thing I've seen about this? Fox and Friends. Fox and Friends cheering Whoopi Goldberg's condemnation of listing Trump supporters. She is absolutely right. This is good news. When The View and Fox and Friends agree, that's unity. That's unity right there. That is amazing. You know why? These fringe wackos on the far left who are corrupting our politics, who are infiltrating media, and are trying to pretend like what they believe is held by the majority of people are wrong. And right now we have a consensus between The View and Fox and Friends. Good. The moderate base is starting to take back some ground here. You know, I'm a moderate, right? I've typically, supported Democrats. These far left crazy people are disrupting everything and causing problems, and it's mostly because moderates won't stand up and push back. Liberals and Democrats are just sitting there saying, I don't know, leave me out of it, I don't want to fight. Well, now we see someone like Whoopi Goldberg standing up. Good. It's about time people pushed back. Dave Chappelle is no conservative, and he pushed back harder than anyone you'd imagine could have. Actually, Dave Chappelle might be conservative. I think based on his stand-up, he's probably much more moderate. He's probably in a similar space to me. Dave Chappelle, telling jokes that are offensive to white people. I get it. I'm for social justice, but I oppose the outrage culture authoritarianism. Dave Chappelle, I'd imagine, is probably in a similar space. He's not a conservative. He's a moderate kind of dude. He understands why guns are important for self-defense. It could all just be jokes. I don't want to act like everything he said was serious. But you can tell from his demeanor, he's willing to offend. He's willing to be funny and tell these people to buzz off. So Mediaite reports, Fox and Friends gave Whoopi Goldberg props for opposing the idea of publicly naming everyone who will attend a fundraiser for Donald Trump. When The View returned, we know this part. From there, so we have Steve Doocy saying she's right. Brian Kilmeade mused about conservative actors who might appear at the fundraiser, but are worried about being boycotted for their politics. Some people out there would go, I don't want someone who is going to be too politically oriented. I'm not going to show them support. Even though guys like Robert De Niro don't seem to care when they express their hatred for the president. It's just unbelievable the way they just target people because they're supporting not an extreme candidate, the president of the United States. You don't want to discriminate because of the way someone voted, said Ainsley Earhart. This is great country. This is a great country. We all have different views. We can all have a great debate. We don't have to hate one another because we don't like who they voted for. Here's the thing. When it comes to these supporters of Trump, Robert De Niro, he goes on Twitter and he rags on Trump all day. You get like Mark Ruffalo and Chris Evans. I wonder, do they actually feel this way? I'm going to have to say the answer is no. I really believe the answer is no. I think they're saying this. Here's what I imagine. There's a lot of people pretending to hate the president and saying things like this, but they secretly like the president. I mean it. I bet there's a ton of people like this. They're all standing around yelling that president is bad, and each of them assumes they have no choice but to say it because everyone else is saying it, not realizing perhaps some people actually think the Orange Man is not so bad. As Fleck would put it, Orange Man he's not that bad, right? That's kind of my position. When the media claims that Trump is talking about exterminating people, I'm like, no, he's literally not that bad, dude. Calm down. He's boorish and offensive. You can criticize his policies, but he's literally not that bad. That's insane. But then speaking from like a more nuanced approach of people who criticize him on his policies, he's still literally not that bad. Like, I think he's bad. His behavior is really, really bad, and even Trump supporters recognize it. And the pushback I often see is that behavior is irrelevant as opposed to his policy. I've also heard people say that bad behavior is good because it means he's going to push back on adversaries of America. But I think foreign policy-wise, it's good to criticize him for like missile strike in Syria is a big, big, big deal to me. I think that was a mistake. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Tulsi anti-war. It's very, very complicated stuff, which I've talked about and won't get into here. The point is, I imagine you have a room full of people. Most people are apolitical and don't care. You then have some people who are just really angry and scream Orange Man bad. Then you have a bunch of people who are just going like, yeah, Orange Man's bad, and they're just saying it when they don't actually know. Someone like Eric McCormick, I'm sure he doesn't actually know anything. And he just walks around and when someone says Trump's bad, he goes, yep, you're right, yeah, hoo-hoo, and just virtue signals. But I'd be willing to bet there's a lot of celebrities who are all in agreement that they like Trump, but don't say anything because they're scared they'll lose their jobs, and they hear everyone else saying the same thing. Imagine this. Two people walk in a room. They both like Trump, but the one guy goes, I don't like the Orange Man. So then the other one naturally says, right, me neither. And then they just sit there scared because they can't talk about it. That's the problem with outrage culture. You have these activists who threaten small businesses. We will destroy you. It's not just in Hollywood. It's everywhere. You know what, man? It's about time people said, I don't care. Call me whatever you want. I just don't care anymore. And that's going to be a big, big moment for us when we can stop caring about the outrage. Next segment will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see a podcast every day at 6:30. I will see you all next time.